And that's completely up to you and within your power.
Super empowering.
Yeah.
If you could choose any context, any way at looking at the world,
That's a good one.
that's a pretty
That's a
damn
pretty good one.
That's a pretty damn good one.
That
if I could dream any dream, this is the one that I would dream.
Because really what it felt like was looking at myself, and not myself as in Ian, but like my true self and who we actually are. And it was extremely profound.
Yeah, it sounds like borderline mystical.
Yeah, I mean, by definition, it was definitely, unquestionably a mystical experience. And the way I've kind of described like a similar feeling of that is, you might be familiar with The Matrix. Mm-hmm. And there's the old
red pill.
There's the red pill. There's the red pill and the blue pill.
Yeah.
And if you take the blue pill, you stay asleep within the Matrix, and if you take the red pill, you wake up and you see what's actually going on. Now, in the Matrix, if you take the red pill, you're out of it, and you realize that you're hooked up and you're being exploited by some other organism, and the Matrix is just to keep you there so they can like harvest you or whatever. I think in real life, again, for what I'm trying to describe here is what's behind the curtain. And remember, the rules of behind the curtain is that there's no actual words, because words are just symbols, but don't mistake symbols for that in which they are symbolizing. So the curtain's now closed again. And I think, in some conviction, I don't know if it's true, who knows, but I'm convinced that we are red pill beings convincing ourselves of living in the Matrix and the blue pill, except this Matrix, this blue pill is not some exploitation of you for something else. It is an experience that you just want to have.
Deliberate, yeah.
So it's the old Alan Watts quote where he basically said, people get really upset when life is difficult and there's frustrations and there's agitations and there's bad things and it's difficult and all these kind of things. And he said, life is kind of like this. If you could go to bed tonight and dream any dream you could possibly want, any pleasure, and you could and you could have that extended for any amount of time, so 75 years or lifetimes, whatever you want, you would naturally start having the most fantastical dreams, the most amazing, you are godlike, you are doing all these amazing, incredible, you're flying and you're doing all these wild things. And then after a couple nights of 75 years of that, or as long as you'd like, as many lifetimes as you'd like.
Infinite if you want.
You would eventually get to the point where you're like, I'm sick of playing God. And I want something to happen to me that I can't predict. I want to be surprised. So you would set up these scenarios where it'd be difficult and more difficult, and random things would happen, and you'd get out and you're like, that was a close shave, and you just made it out. And then you'd continue to do further and further out gambles at what you could dream. And eventually you would dream where you are now. Because what you're experiencing right now is within the infinite realm of possibilities. And I think something I've kind of come to recently is faith in a monotheistic or anything like that. Faith is to be present and trust that there's all the infinite consciousness and you're consciously aware of what you're experiencing. And then faith is to be present in that experience and trust that there's some sort of reason for that. And that reason can be up to you. And that's where you get to shape your context. You get to shape your lens. You get to decide if your life is a tragedy or a comedy or an adventure or a drag, anything that you want. And that's completely up to you and within your power.
Super empowering.
Yeah.
If you could choose any context, any way at looking at the world,
that's a good one.
That's a pretty
good one.
That's a pretty damn good one.
If
I could dream any dream, this is the one that I would dream. That's a pretty fucking empowering context,
that's
bro.
A pretty...
Yo, like literally, it would be us sitting here on the microphone
and
with the fixed thing.
And you'd be where you are washing dishes, listening to these idiots in another country doing our thing out here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
That's beautiful.
From a sense of us being restricted consciousness, there's cheesy sayings like you are your imperfections, all those kind of things, and you are. Your imperfections are literally what define you. If perfection of consciousness and power is some giant like rectangular square block of clay, and that's perfection, well, you're not that. Whatever you are is some weird little claw shape, chipped away, all and like inconvenient and all weird and all those kind of things. And your imperfections are literally what makes you.
Yeah, it reminds me of. It's funny because like some of these ideas are said in different ways, which is why I think it's really useful to get this almost mastermind effect of personal development.
Yes.
Where we read The Alchemist this summer on that road trip. We also listened to Busting Loose in the Money Game at the same time, and that was really powerful. And one of the things, I know you got that on your watch there, is the Maktub idea. Maktub?
Yeah, Maktub.
Maktub, which is it's already written, right? It's all written.
Arabic word.
So it feels like however you show up right now was written on purpose, right? And you can trust that. You said the word faith. You can have the faith to know that all the imperfections were designed perfectly for you to be where you are right now, living the life that you live right now. And I think that's empowering, because instead of now resisting my life and resisting where I've showed up, I can just be in the present moment.